Let's talk about a new way to view healthcare. I was introduced to this last year and have completely fallen in love with how comprehensive and how healing it actually is, especially as a healthcare provider. Welcome back, guys. It's Dr. Knox DMP. If you haven't already, quick reminder, make sure that you are following me over on Instagram, and also make sure that you've subscribed here to this channel. But without further ado, let's hop into today's topic. Today, we are discussing lifestyle medicine, but what is it? So according to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, it's a medical specialty that uses therapeutic lifestyle interventions as a primary modality to treat chronic conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, and obesity, amongst many other things. It utilizes evidence-based whole person prescriptive lifestyle changes to treat and sometimes even reverse chronic conditions. Y'all, the word reverse in itself is such a big deal. You will be hard pressed to find a healthcare provider, a clinician who will tell you that they can reverse or cure your chronic disease. During my training to become a nurse practitioner, I had the privilege and the honor to be able to do clinical rotations in the world-renowned Houston Medical Center. I was assigned to do clinical rotations with a Dr. Baxter Montgomery, who, oh my gosh, is an amazing plant-based cardiologist in the medical center who has his own clinic. On one side of his clinic, he's running stress tests, echoes, EKGs, and on the other side, he actually has a plant-based cafe for his patients. That alone was beautiful to see. Most doctors' offices don't have food, let alone a whole cafe catered to healing their patients. It was there that I started to see a common thread from what my dad always talked about. What we put in our bodies matters. And at that clinic, I was able to hear testimonial after testimonial after testimonial of patient after patient who had several chronic conditions like the ones listed before: obesity, heart disease, heart failure, diabetes, high cholesterol, all of these things. And they were able to reverse and cure these things simply by changing the way that they eat, amongst other things. Being able to witness firsthand what Dr. Montgomery was doing definitely planted a seed in me. So I'm not at all surprised that I am here today wanting to have a greater impact on the healthcare of people. Lifestyle medicine has 6 core pillars, so we're going to jump right into that. Number 1 is physical activity. Let's start with this one since it's one that most people are pretty aware of. The key thing to remember here is consistent and regular. I know somebody is out there rolling their eyes because they have not been consistent and regular, but it's something that research backs. We are not meant to be sedentary, and research shows that an inactive lifestyle has so many negative consequences. Patients and people alike often get caught up in what type of activities, what type of exercise should I be doing, for how long, how many days a week. And I try to keep things pretty simple, especially when dealing with people who have had issues with being consistent and regular in the past. 30 minutes, 3 times a week. I like to keep it short and sweet. 30 minutes, 3 times a week. It doesn't matter what type of activity you do. You could do some walking. It could be jogging, running, sprinting, lifting weights, Pilates, yoga, kickboxing, basketball, tennis. No matter what the case is, the intention is building a healthy and strong foundation of discipline and regular and consistent activity. And you'll be surprised. I find that most people, even when I make it simple, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, find it difficult to stick to that for even 3 months. So when people say, oh, that seems too simple, sometimes we overcomplicate things. But it's all about building that foundation, slow and steady. After you meet that first milestone of 3 months of 30 minutes, 3 times per week, then we can add on and start to individualize things a little bit more tailored to your specific goals. That brings us to pillar number 2, restorative sleep. Did you know that most people don't even get 5 hours of quality sleep every day? Optimally, we should be aiming for 7 hours of quality sleep each and every night. Most people suffer from brain fog, fatigue, depressed moods, anxiety, lack of ability to concentrate, and start to think that something is wrong with them. Or worse, they start to accept that as that's just how they are. But sleep plays a large part in all of these things. Oftentimes in the medical world, sleep quality, sleep regularity, those things typically are never really brought up or addressed unless they are attached to some type of breathing concerns that a patient is having. And oftentimes things like melatonin, Tylenol PM, Benadryl, and stronger medications like Ambien are prescribed to solve the problem. And while I do believe that there are circumstances that warrant medications, I believe that we should not start there. I believe in starting with more of a lifestyle, conservative approach. I believe if we start to teach people the foundation of a healthy lifestyle, we'll stop a lot of problems from arising in the first place. Oftentimes, if you ask people how their time is spent an hour to two before they go to bed, you'll find the culprit. You'll find some room for improvement that no one ever addresses. Pillar number 3 is stress management. And I know we are all stressed. I know, I hear you. But hear me out. We either want the facts or we don't. Stress will chip away at your health, both short-term and long-term. Oftentimes we'll see stress, anxiety, and depression all linked and balled up together. But a lot of times if we go back to the root, it has to do with some form of stress. And I'm talking about work stress, relationship stress, child stress, parent stress, friendship stressors, all of the stressors of having a busy life and trying to keep things together. It's emotional, it's mental, it's social, and it's physical. But most importantly, it's real. Research shows it contributes to so many negative outcomes. And we often attribute these issues and these type of stressors to the job of a therapist and a psychologist. However, I believe that yes, those are great people and resources to go to, but I believe if we are to truly start practicing healthcare as providers, that this is something that we can be a resource and a tool for as well. If equipped properly, if educated properly, we can also begin to identify stressors and coping mechanisms and provide patients with the appropriate tools and resources to be able to navigate some of these issues. In my mind, I chuckled just a little bit because I can hear colleagues saying, you want me to educate people on stress while I'm stressed. Sometimes healthcare professionals have a really bad take on handling this too. We deal with lots of different type of stressors, and we are not often taught ourselves how to manage those things. The blind cannot lead the blind. Pillar number 4 is the avoidance of risky substances. Now let's be straight, no chaser with this one, no pun intended. Alcohol, cigarettes, vapes, hookah, weed, pills, all of the things that we know are risky substances. My general take on it is to avoid them. These have all been shown to increase disease, to reduce healthy outcomes, and to increase the risk of death. Again, what we put into our bodies matters. Now, I know some people out there are saying, what about socially and recreationally or in moderation? There's an article that says moderation kills, which I won't go to that extent, but I will say just be mindful of the things that you're putting in your body. They do have more negative effects than they do positive effects. Pillar number 5 is about positive social connections, and I absolutely love this pillar for many reasons. As I said before, what we put in our bodies matters, but also who you hang around, who you listen to, who you surround yourself with. That matters just as well. As people begin to research areas like the blue zones and start to see the power of social connection, we start to really understand how important this aspect really is in our lives. The people that we hang around have the ability to affect our emotional, our social, and our mental health, not to mention our physical health. So we must choose wisely. Choose people who also want to have a healthier lifestyle. Choose people who prioritize physical wellness. choose people who would rather go work out than brunch and mimosas all the time. I'm saying that we need to choose people who value balance and who are in alignment with the lifestyle that we say that we desire. It's very challenging for people to start to shift in a positive direction when everyone around them is living a life that they no longer feel aligned with. For instance, when someone in a group of people wants to get healthy, but everyone else is into partying all the time and eating junk food and spending money carelessly, that person is going to have a more difficult time adapting new, healthier lifestyle while also trying to stay around those people. It seems like such a small thing. I think sometimes we like to think to ourselves, I have enough discipline and I have enough willpower to go against the grain and still keep my friends. And while, yes, that may be true, it definitely makes the journey more difficult. It can make the journey harder. So I definitely encourage people to take inventory of the people that they're around and see how they're lining up or not with the lifestyle that they desire. And last but not least is a whole food predominant eating pattern. Now that sounds like a mouthful, right? Let me break it down. Whole foods, not the grocery store, refers to minimally processed vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes. I find that a lot of people don't really have clarity on what minimally processed means. So let's talk about that. I like to explain it by saying, think farm to table. I like to encourage people to think, how processed is this? I encourage people to think, has this food been altered from its natural state? How much processing has taken place to get this food item in front of me? And I encourage people to think about the produce section of their grocery store. That is where most of the minimally processed food products are. So think more an apple, a sweet potato, a healthy salad, not so much a Nutri-Grain bar or pre-made oatmeal packets and things of that nature. And start looking at the list of ingredients. If you start to see a bunch of things that you can't pronounce, that typically gives you a good idea that there's some processing that's been going on, preservatives that have been going on to extend shelf life and things of that nature. Some people will even say true whole foods, farm to table foods will not have an ingredients list. For instance, when you pick up an apple or a sweet potato, they just are what they are. There's no processing that happens. You just pick them up. You could go and get it from off of a farm. Now, touching base on all of the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, my question is, how many of you have actually been to a clinic where they've addressed even 1 or 2 of these things in any significant detail? Not even to say that they were addressed, but were they even inquired about? I used to work in a traditional primary care clinic, your regular doctor's office. And to be honest, you guys, sometimes there just isn't even enough time to ask all of these questions, let alone address them. Patients are booked every 15 minutes, which means we get less than 15 minutes with each patient to go in, address them, talk with them, hear what their concerns are, and come up with a treatment plan. Oftentimes we're double booked, patients are lined up back to back, so we're not even fully present when we're talking with our patients. The traditional method just honestly isn't very effective. I saw that my time was not being utilized in a way that was impactful and meaningful to me, so for that reason I ended up leaving primary care. Not only was it ineffective, it didn't look at things comprehensively or holistically. No one is really taking the time to address the whole person. And to be fair, we're not taught to address the whole person. In the US, we are taught very symptomatic care, episodic care. There's a pill for everything nowadays, and some people want just that. But oftentimes, most people don't want a pill, but they believe that that's the only option, and that's simply not true. So while I still practice sick care to a large extent, I think it is necessary in the setting that I am in. I also want to start to promote and encourage and showcase and highlight healthcare, true health care, true preventative care, taking into account the full picture and offering a healthier approach. One of my dear friends opened a primary care clinic, and her practice is amazing. At her grand opening, there was the story of someone, I'm going to paraphrase this, and I'm probably not going to do the best job, but bear with me, you'll get the gist of it. There was a man who saw somebody drowning in a river, went, saved them, dragged them out of the river. Cool. A couple minutes later, he sees somebody else in the river, dives in, saves that person, pulls them out to safety. Again and again and again, this keeps happening. People are in the river drowning. He keeps jumping in to save them. The moral of the story was, instead of focusing on grabbing people once they're already drowning, start to look further upstream to see, why are people falling in the first place? And that sat with me so heavily that day. And it's literally something that motivates me to keep going. There are people that are becoming sicker and sicker and sicker. And I feel it is our responsibility as healthcare providers to start to really educate ourselves, to know that there's a better way, and then take that knowledge and start to spread it to the people around us. So that is it for today's video. Just a quick introduction into lifestyle medicine. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up or share it with someone that you think may be interested in it. And as always, subscribing to my channel is something that is always helpful and beneficial to help me and my small channel grow. As I mentioned before, I would love to connect with you on Instagram. I've linked my handle here on how you can reach me there. And I'll see you in the next video.